Yo, what is poppin'? Welcome to episode 9 of Back of the End Zone. It's Josh Reisick here with Brian Kolecki and Brian Koleski. And this is the first episode not in the TV studio with our typical backdrop. And so this is very interesting because, we're both home from summer and for summer, I guess I should say. So August. Yeah, and this episode, though, I'm telling you right now, this first episode is going to be so much fun. I know Brian's already pumped, and I'm pumped.
Excited for our guest, big game boomer. A lot of the college football community knows who he is. He's responsible for a lot of the lists that you guys see on Twitter, like top quarterbacks, running backs. He does positions. He does all kinds of lists for all kinds of shit college football. He does like prettiest college campuses. He puts time and dedication into this as well because he actually visits these college campuses. He visits a lot of places, and he watches a lot of college football. You might think you don't know football from looking at these lists, but a lot of this.
He knows ball. He knows college football a lot better than a lot of college football fans. Yeah. Taking it in perspective, looking at the list that he makes, like a lot of people hate on him, and but the thing is, people are always going to disagree with lists like that. When you're making such a big list, like he just released like top 50 college football running backs, top 50 college football quarterbacks heading into the season, people are going to be upset if their quarterback's not where they think they should be.
Neither of Bama's quarterbacks were up there, but I kind of agree right now. They're not to that level right now. That both of them haven't seen the field or I guess all three of them now if you add in Tyler Buchner. But Tyler Buchner's seen more experience than the other two, but the two that were in the spring game, I've not seen the field as much as all of those guys he put on the list. I like some of his lists. I agree with some of his lists. They can get people a little rowdy. I like reading the comments. I like.
He definitely
tries to make some fun out of it, and he does a great job with it.
And he's getting the interact. Like I remember last year, he made one that was like top 10 like college football stadium bathrooms, and it was something ridiculous like that. And just seeing all the comments and interactions he was getting on Twitter were hilarious because people were pissed off thinking that their college football stadium bathroom should have been ranked higher or ranked lower. And it's fun though. It's fun that he's able to interact and have the platform that he does and share his opinion on different college football stuff like that.
So a couple weeks ago we talked about Texas football. They're one of the teams coming into the SEC. So is Oklahoma, and we're bringing him on here today to talk about Oklahoma. See what last year they finished 6-6. They made a bowl game, but I can't remember if they won or lost it. But they didn't have the year they thought they were under their first year head coach, Brett Venables, who had amazing defenses at Clemson, and so a lot of people held that in high regard because that's what Oklahoma needed at the time. They felt like they needed to be stronger up front on defense. And then we're going to talk about his list, too, like what goes into making them, what goes into, does he target a specific audience with a certain list? Does he cater to certain fan bases? Does he pick at certain fan bases? And then later on, we're going to talk about the Matt Araiza stuff. Josh has got some thoughts on that. And then we're going to talk some NFL schedule releases this week. We're going to talk about that, like some of the matchups we got coming up.
Some big games, Super Bowl rematch, baby. It'll be interesting for sure. But yeah, definitely excited for to get Big Game Boomer on here and talk about Oklahoma because a lot of people think that Oklahoma's on the downfall after losing Lincoln Riley, that now they're going to the SEC after this upcoming year, literally a year from now. So, it's interesting to see what's ahead for Oklahoma and their last year in the Big 12. So
let's go and get him on here and y'all enjoy. This is Big Game Boomer. A lot of you know him from. He's active on Twitter. He has the Big Game Boomer Show on YouTube and other platforms. He does. A lot of the college football community knows who he is. He makes all the lists that a lot of college football fans interact with. And I know he pushed out a couple earlier today, and yesterday, like the best 50 quarterbacks going into the season, running backs, and a couple others I've seen from the past couple of days. And so we're excited to have him on. And again, we just appreciate you taking the time to join us. So
Yeah, no, thanks for having me on. Always love hopping on podcasts and talking football. You guys are South Alabama guys, so obviously I was at the New Orleans Bowl, and that was not a good showing for you guys against Western Kentucky. But I will say I was very impressed with the turnout of South Alabama fans.
I was too.
There was a bar like right across the street from the Superdome that was just rocking with South Alabama fans.
And we actually got to go back to New Orleans September 2nd to open the season at Tulane. So that'll be a good for the Power Five. Or I mean, not Power Five, but Group of Five. That'll be a good game to watch, considering South is steadily growing as a program with Kane there. Tulane has gotten there. They beat USC last season, which I know was a treat for you.
Oh yeah.
Everything that happened with Lincoln Riley. So, but that'll be a good game to watch at the beginning of the season. Then we go to Oklahoma State, which I'm not really sure what they have. And then we got the rest.
The floodgate has kind of opened in Stillwater. They are struggling to have a full roster. A lot of guys have transferred out.
We nearly beat UCLA last year. That was
awesome. And back in like week 3, that was great. Yeah. So you guys play. It's at Stillwater.
Yeah, it's at Stillwater.
Okay. Yeah, that could. It's not week 1, is it?
No, that's like week 4.
Week 4?
Week 3 or week 4, yeah.
Okay. Well, hopefully y'all can come up there and steal an upset. That would be great. I can see it happening.
I would like to see us win the Sun Belt this year. I mean, we got a lot of guys coming back and stuff like that. We got Carter Bradley and Webb coming back. We got a lot of the defense coming back. So it's an exciting time to be a South Alabama fan, and we're excited for this upcoming season. So this episode, we're talking about Oklahoma. I know you're a big Oklahoma fan. Hence the name Big Game Boomer.
Yeah.
What was kind of your mindset after Oklahoma's season last year, finishing 6-6? Not nearly the season y'all Oklahoma fans had envisioned in Brett Venables' first year, especially on the defensive side of the ball, giving up 49 to Texas and stuff like that.
Yeah. It was a reality check. That's the worst OU football team I've ever seen. I was born in the 90s, so I'm not young enough to remember how bad they were in the late 90s during the John Blake era. But I mean, man, it was bad, and just everyone was expecting, a step up from the defense, and the defense, like you said, just was not there at all. They just look. If you watch the tape on that game against TCU, I've never seen like deep defensive backs on a blue blood Power 5 school just look just like I have no idea what the heck I'm supposed to do. They look lost. Year 1, it was, obviously not what OU fans wanted. But I think Brent Venables, it's obvious it's also his first year as a head coach.
Yeah.
And you watch those games, and you guys probably haven't. I've watched them multiple times. There's a lot of stuff like he's still learning how to be a head coach, like game management, time clock management. There's a lot of stuff that happened last year that I think if he watched again, he'd be like, yeah, probably should have called a timeout here, or so there's definitely learning steps for being a head coach. They're paid millions of dollars. They're thrown right to the wolves. But the year 2, got to step it up. Can't go 6-6 again.
And so, we just asked Josh. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, year 2 coming in too. You got Dylan Gabriel coming in, second year with Oklahoma. Do you think that he has the potential to be the starting quarterback, or do you think that maybe instead it's going to be Jackson Arnold beating him out? And
so if you watch the game, sorry, my doorbell just rung. If you watch, if you look at Dylan Gabriel's stats last year, you'd say, hey, this is a top 10 quarterback.
Yeah.
But when you actually watch the games, he made a lot of critical mistakes in crucial parts of the game that kind of frustrated OU fans. So he's a talented guy. He's just got to clean up those mental errors where like you don't see a linebacker dropping in the coverage, just stuff like that he's got to clean up, because like you said, there is Jackson Arnold, who was one of the top rated quarterbacks coming out of high school this past year. So if Gabriel starts struggling early, which I don't think he will, but if he does, or if OU loses a couple games early, they will be calling for Jackson Arnold. So I will not be surprised at all if he is the starting quarterback, 3 or 4 games down the road once the season gets started.
Yeah, and speaking of like Jackson Arnold in the recruiting class, they pulled in a very talented number 5 recruiting class, along with in that top 5 with Texas, Bama, Georgia. That recruiting class, do you mean for Venables' first recruiting class at Texas? I mean, at Oklahoma. Do you feel like it's going to benefit him in that class down the road, especially next year when Oklahoma comes into the SEC? Do you feel like the recruiting classes he's already starting to get is going to benefit coming into the SEC?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, top 5 class is huge, and that's what a lot of the fan base is still in high spirits because of that recruiting class. Now, with the transfer portal and how things are now, if this season goes south, I wouldn't be shocked if a lot of those guys hop in the portal and transfer to SEC schools. So we'll see. That's the problem with the portal nowadays, is that it's free agency 24/7. Anyone can up and leave whenever. So, yes, it's a great recruiting class, but you got to keep them there and you got to keep them happy. And that's going to be a challenge for Brent Venables definitely this year.
I was going to say one thing that, looking back at like going to the SEC and whatnot, and this year, I mean, you guys obviously, the Big 12 is adding couple new additions from a group of 5. Like, you guys will be playing 3 of them: Cincinnati, UCF, and BYU.
At BYU, yeah.
Do you think that those games are crucial to win heading into going to the SEC next year? Like, do you think that as an Oklahoma fan, like, this year is a year where you truly need to make a statement with Venables' second year and heading into the SEC?
Yeah, no, I think that definitely. I mean, it's Oklahoma. I mean, so they went 6-7 last year. Like I said, the 90s was the. I mean, I hardly remember OU ever not winning at least 9 games in the season. Yeah. So it's like, the sky will be falling if they don't have a good year. But going on the road to those new Big 12 schools is going to be very tough, because so like the first they go play at OU goes and plays at Cincinnati. That's Cincinnati's first Big 12 game, and so Nippert Stadium is going to be absolutely bonkers. And they've just got to get ready and play, because they're going to have it. Even though they went 6-6 last year, they're still OU. They'll still have a target on their back. So. Yeah, but to answer your question, they do need to have a good year to go in the SEC, because SEC is not going to be any easier than their schedule right now. So this is a tune-up year, in my opinion.
And like, in your opinion, with Oklahoma and Texas coming into the SEC, out of the two, who do you like as of right now? Who do you think is prepared most to? Do you think they could succeed? Either one could succeed right out of the gate, like be successful, in going into next season, like coming out of the gate, be successful, win 8-9 games in the SEC, and do you think which school out of the two do you think is the most prepared to succeed right away?
So I'm going to go against my OU homerism here, and I'm going to say Texas is more prepared right now, and I think that them going to the SEC is better for them than it is OU, because they were losing recruits to Texas A&M in the state of Texas because A&M was in the SEC. That was their trump card to always, that they always had against Texas was, hey, we're in the SEC. Look at all the guys that get drafted in the NFL that play in the SEC. So come here, win a couple games, go play in the NFL. Texas can now say that. We're in the SEC. So I think Texas is more prepared for it. From an NIL standpoint, I think Texas has a lot more money than OU. OU's got to get their facilities upgraded. I mean, I know we're talking football, but across the board, they need badly a new baseball stadium. They're building a new softball stadium, but and Texas just has unlimited money. I mean, I think they're the richest athletic program in the country. So I would say they're more prepared at this point right now on May 9th of 2023.
Yeah, I mean, taking a look though, I mean, like we were just talking about how you guys had the top five recruiting class this upcoming year. I think either way, it's still, I mean, you guys are still OU. Like it's still looking up and going into the SEC too. I feel like even if this upcoming year isn't maybe as good as what you guys are hoping for, I mean, say you guys still even win like 10 games, which is still a good season. I mean,
I'd be happy with that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I'm saying like even heading in to next year going into the SEC, I mean, I think we all know you guys are still going to draw on the recruits, especially just because now you guys have that label SEC. It's just like it's going to draw in so many more guys that are going to want guys that may have not even ever looked at OU that want to go there now just because you guys will be an SEC school.
Yeah. Well, I mean, here's the thing about that I like about their recruiting class is when OU has had top 10 recruiting class in the past 10 years, it's always been like, okay, they got a 5-star quarterback, they got a 5-star wide receiver. It's always like these skill guys, which will win you games in the Big 12, but you need the secret ingredient for the SEC and why they're the best conference is because they have guys in the trenches on the offensive and defensive line, and they have depth on both sides of the football. Because they can just cycle in these 300-pound guys, play after play, and schools outside of the SEC, maybe the Big Ten, can't compete with it. And so that's what's promising about OU's recruiting classes. They're getting some linebackers, some defensive linemen, some top recruits that they need for the SEC. It'll be interesting to see how Big 12 play is because offenses are just kind of all over the place in the Big 12. But they need to build that depth in the trenches, or they're going to get smoked the first year in the SEC.
I mean, and this past recruiting class, you guys got those guys in the trenches too. Like you guys got the 5-star pass rusher.
Yep.
You guys had multiple 4-star offensive linemen and defensive linemen too. And it's like, that's huge. That's huge going into SEC play.
That's Venables, yeah.
Yeah. And that's huge for obviously making that 180 from last year with your defense. Like it's definitely brighter days ahead. But
yeah, I sure as heck hope so. I mean, just last year was really rough, and it just stung with USC having success, and Caleb Williams winning the Heisman. But I think there's a ceiling on Lincoln Riley football teams where you can only get so far with a good quarterback and some good wide receivers. Eventually, you're going to come up against a team that's more physical than you, and you're going to get beat. So, it was kind of nice to see Utah beat them in the Pac-12 championship.
I was happy about
Tulane,
that.
and Tulane to beat them. I forgot about the Green Waves.
I was happy about Utah beating USC because I'm an Ohio State fan, and seeing Ohio State get into the playoffs, it still sucked to lose to Georgia. But I mean, I was just happy to get in the playoff, and Utah came in clutch. But
the Utes.
So, and I was gonna say, last week they released the we all know they're going to a 12-team playoff next season. And they released like the schedule for that. I think Oklahoma is in a much better position. Oklahoma and Texas coming into the SEC as soon as the same time as the 12-team playoff is being unveiled because they don't like and for the SEC as a whole because the SEC is so competitive and it is so the schedule is brutal on a conference basis, game-to-game basis. I mean, you see it in the West and the East, East is getting a lot better. With teams like Tennessee rising, Kentucky, South Carolina coming up.
Stingy. Florida needs to step it up, but
Florida, I think with the 12-team playoff, especially for the SEC, it makes it to where you don't have to win. You don't have to go undefeated and win the SEC to still make it in the playoff. You don't have to.
Absolutely.
You can go 10-2, 9-3, and because you're the SEC, you'll get. I mean, I know people joke about it, but it is true. You would get the SEC bump, or the SEC nod, because that is the best conference in football. It is, the SEC. You would get that nod because you are the SEC. So I feel like, that puts Oklahoma and Texas in a much better position to come in and compete.
Yeah, if they didn't expand the playoff to 12 teams, it would have been a ridiculous decision to go to the SEC other than getting a bigger paycheck because you got, just Goliaths of Alabama and Georgia you got to deal with. But yeah, you're right. If any SEC team that goes 10-2 and maybe even 9-3 is getting into the playoff every year with a 12-team playoff, they will always have the benefit of the doubt. So, making $40 million more a year in your TV contract, plus, having that SEC card to always play, it's definitely going to be beneficial, and not just football, really in every sport.
Yeah. Do you see the conference expanding, or do you see, do you think conference expansion is at a hiatus right now, or do you see it getting any, because last year we had the bombshell of USC and UCLA going into Big Ten. Do you see
stupid too? I absolutely hate that move too. Yeah, with those two schools going to the Big Ten. So I mean, there's the Pac-12 is still kind of up in the air right now. They haven't finalized their media deal. So that leads me to believe that there's schools that are on the fence about whether they want to stay or go and join the potential, probably the Big 12, because I don't think the Big 10 is going to add any teams. If they would have already added Oregon and Washington. Yeah. So, I mean, I think probably a week after the College World Series, once we're done with this kind of sports calendar for 2022, 2023, I think we'll see some moves. Someone's going to leave the Pac-12. That is my gut. There's just been too much smoke. Would not be shocked if Colorado or the Arizona schools are in the Big 12 this time next year. Utah, I don't know. Their fans don't want to be in the Big 12 at all because they hate BYU and they don't want to be associated with them at all. So, but I think if, the athletic director and, that program, if they want to make more money, it'd be the right move to go to the Big 12. But I think we're gonna for some fireworks come in a couple months or so. Month.
We talked about it on one of our first episodes. We saw something back in February or March where the ACC or Florida State and Clemson weren't happy with the ACC.
Oh yeah, those ACC schools are screwed. They can't do anything. They can't get out of that grant of rights deal because it's up in like 2035 or 36. Yeah. Check me if I'm wrong, but and that came buyout. Yeah. There's just no way you can come up with that cash to get bought out of that deal at this point. So, I mean, it was at the time, I guess they felt safe. It was a safety net making that deal, but with all the changes that have happened over the last 5 or 6 years, it's going to be a horrible move, and they're going to get left in the dust.
So I wanted to talk about your list because, I mean, that's kind of where, a lot of people interact with you, especially on Twitter, especially on social media. What, we talked a little bit about it at the New Orleans Bowl, but we didn't have but what goes into making those lists, and how do you get your start doing that?
Man, I just, with COVID comes a bunch of different, we were all doing things we normally don't do during COVID. So, you're kind of isolated. So I want to talk sports with people. So I just got on Twitter. I've had the app since I was in college, never used it. Just got on, just saw all these people just arguing about sports. And so I just got involved with it.
Sports that weren't going on at the
time. yeah, exactly. And so there's so much crap going on in the world. So I like to, I use this as kind of a way to just talk about sports 24/7. And I started it, I think January, February of 2021 is when I made my first graphic. And I had I remember November of 2020, I had 50 followers on Twitter. And, it's fun. For me, it's just fun. I enjoy it. I enjoy making lists. When I do these player rankings, I did top 50 quarterbacks, I'll do that for every position. This is the third year in a row that I've done it. I mean, I spend a lot of time. I'm about to spend 3 hours working on the wide receiver list for tomorrow. But I spend a lot of time trying to make those, looking at, stats, upside. I mean, it's a pretty thorough review process. But for that stuff and coaching, any rankings of coaches, because people take those lists very seriously. You would not believe some of the DMs I get, and you see the article, people write articles about them on like Sports Illustrated and USA Today. It's crazy how they've just become so big. And it's wild, but it's really cool because I mean I enjoy doing it, and it's just fun. It gives people something to talk about and argue about during. I mean, it's May 9th. College football starts what in like 3-4 months now, and I've got people furious about a mascot list that I just posted about the best mascot in every state. So it's just my opinion.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
So it's like
we were talking about it before you came on, and I was like, 'cause I think one of the first times I saw one of your lists, it was a list of like the top 10 college football stadium bathrooms, something like that. And people like all over Twitter, like I remember seeing it on like Instagram, like college football fan accounts too. And people were so pissed off about it. Like, sharing thoughts. And I'm like, it's just hilarious to me. Like, and I mean, everyone obviously has their own opinion. People are going to be pissed off no matter what. Like with your top 50 quarterbacks the other day, people were pissed off that their quarterback wasn't higher. Or
Joe Milton was is still trending on Twitter because of that list.
Yeah. And it's like
number one thing trending.
And people are still obviously going to be pissed off because everybody has their own opinion. But like, how do you take that? Like seeing that, do you just like laugh when you see people getting all upset? But it's like
you have to. If I cared what these people said about me, I would have quit after doing the first list. To me, I love debating about sports and stuff. I just love seeing all different aspects of every fan base coming in and arguing, and because college fans, we're so much more passionate than professional fans.
Definitely.
Like, I mean, I could do a mascot list about Major League Baseball teams. No one would care because you don't go to a Major League Baseball team and go there to school for 4 years, just get ingrained in everything about that school, learn all the traditions. I mean, college sports is a way of life. And it's just the passion that we all have is the best, I think, of any sports. That's what I kind of just wanted to capture, is that passion. And I feel like I have kind of caught that or captured that in social media, because I mean, on Instagram and Twitter, anything I post now, it's just goes bonkers, and it's fun.
Yeah, to me, like there's people that know who you are, even if they don't know who you are, because they've just seen like one of your graphics. Like literally, I was talking to my brother about it the other day, about you, and I was like, oh yeah, you know who Big Game Boomer is? He's like, I don't know who Big Game Boomer is. And I was like, look at this list. I was like, look at this list. He was like, oh, sometimes I hate his list. And I was like, yeah, see, like it's funny because people who don't even think they know who you are based off of the list. And it's funny. It's funny how the platform that you've built off of making these lists, but like it's entertaining.
Wild. It's wild, man. I'm just taking it one day at a time, and it's.
And one thing I wanted to know is,
cool.
Is there ever a time when you're making these lists, like that maybe there's a little, I don't want to say bias, but there's a little like, okay, like you don't like USC that much because they took Lincoln Riley and stuff like that. Do you ever like cater to a team off or do you ever like kind of like knock them down a few points just because of who
depends.
they are?
I feel like I do have a little bias against Clemson, just because I'm kind of sick of Dabo Sweeney.
Me too.
But yeah, I mean, sometimes I will take a shot at a fan base or a school or a team, like Kansas. So I went to the Kansas State basketball game this past fall. When K-State beat them in overtime. Great, one of the best atmospheres I've ever been a part of. And so ever since then, I have just been completely anti-Kansas, and have been repping K-State like all basketball season. And my gosh, Kansas fans absolutely hate me. So I just, sometimes I'll poke at them a little bit. But
going back to Kansas State, I went to the Sugar Bowl when Bama played Kansas State. And I guess because I'm always been in SEC country, Josh is from Big Ten country. I've never really, and I know Texas and Oklahoma fans have a lot of passion as well, but I never realized the passion that Kansas State fans had.
Oh man, they're solid.
To be all the way down in New Orleans, they had a great turnout. Like half of the Superdome was was purple and gray, and I just enjoy talking to some of them. And
they're great. Yeah, they're great. They are OU's thorn in the side, but they do have a great fan base, and their fan base does travel very well. But yeah, they're fun.
And for the first half, that game was kind of competitive. Deuce Vaughn went out for like an 80-yard run, and I was actually kind of worried at the end of the first quarter. But that was a great atmosphere. Even Bama fans, for it to be a disappointing season for us. I mean, there's still a great turnout because of Bryce Young being able to and some of the other guys that got drafted playing. But yeah, Kansas State, I'll give kudos to them for that turnout they had at the Superdome.
And here's another thing that's funny is so Arkansas fans, they just crack me up. I think if you could go to any list I've ever made, there's an Arkansas fan in there saying that whatever I ranked, Arkansas should be number one. Like always, there is always an Arkansas fan. I could make a list like best college towns with the best parking meters, and there'd be some Arkansas fan saying, "How are we not in there? We got great parking, parking meters. What are you talking about? Woo pig!" Like there's, I love Arkansas fans, but man, they just are always just mad about something.
The fan base I've always despised is Tennessee. I've always despised Tennessee fans.
They never lose a poll, kind of like Nebraska.
And Virginia Tech. Like one of my first games ever going to in person. I was like 8 years old. It was Bama and Virginia Tech and the Georgia Dome. It was the year Mark Ingram won the Heisman and Saban won his first championship. It was the beginning of the season. They played Virginia Tech, and we were sitting in front of some Hokie fans, and they were just so obnoxious. And it was just, I just never liked Virginia Tech after that. So I mean,
they're passionate. Yeah, they're very passionate. Their team sucks right now, but they are passionate fans for sure.
I can't really say anything because I feel like I can get pretty obnoxious being an Ohio State fan. So I mean,
that's all right though.
As much as I hate
fans have their obnoxious too. I mean, I've only been, I was born in '99, but I never really started paying attention to football till 08, 09 because I was just a kid back then. I never really started paying attention till I got like a little bit older, and so all I've really ever known is the Saban era. And I'm not one of these Bama fans that's saying, "Oh, Saban will be around forever" and stuff like that. I actually think I'm mentally prepared for when Saban retires because I know it's not going to last forever. And one of the things I tell people is I just embrace it. Because at some point Saban's era at Bama is going to end, and so I'm prepared for that moment because I think it's coming sooner rather than later. So
yeah, I mean I was at Alabama's spring game, and I can tell you that quarterback play was some of the worst I've ever seen. I mean, I tweeted at the game that the way Alabama was playing, they'd go 7-5. But I don't think they'll go 7-5. But I mean, they look bad. And of course, it's spring ball. But my gosh, there was a 3-series stretch in that spring game where it was either Milroe throws a pick, then Simpson throws a pick. Yeah. The defender returns it to like the 1 yard line, and they can't score inside the 1 yard line. And save it. I felt bad for Tommy Reese at that game because he was just in Reese's grill the whole day. I mean, it had to be miserable because the offense looked terrible.
Kind of reminded me of Lane Kiffin's early days at Alabama when he was like in his first year. But I actually wanted to ask you about the Bama quarterback situation. So they bring in Tyler Buckner from Notre Dame, which I think is a better get than people realize because, he got beat out at Notre Dame, but he still has the experience. He played under Tommy Reeves, and no shot at Notre Dame, but they don't have the talent that Bama does either. I mean, they don't have the guys up. Notre Dame's always got guys up front, but they don't have the talent at receiver or at running back, or even sometimes on the defense side of the ball, to where on offense especially, Notre Dame doesn't have that talent on offense that Bama is used to having. So I think it is a better get, but there were some things I liked from both quarterbacks, and then there were some things I didn't like. I've always been critical of Milroe's passing ability, but
if he could just be an average passer, like he would be a top 20 quarterback. I mean, because the guy's got wheels.
I was telling
But
Jake when we had him on, it's hard to keep an athlete like him off the field. I wish he would switch positions or something. Just
yeah,
to keep him on
they
the
need to
field
come up with some
somewhere.
packages or something. But yeah, I mean, Buchner, he's a good quarterback, but like I've never seen him like take over a game. And Tommy Reese's offense really doesn't ask you to do that. But he's going to need to in the SEC. So we'll see. I mean, this is the most desperate I have ever seen Alabama look. You know, snagging a mid-range quarterback after spring ball. I mean, it's definitely a red flag. And I wasn't high on the coordinator hires either. So
I was a little bit higher on Kevin Steele than Tommy Rees because I didn't really know Tommy Rees. Like I didn't know him until he came into the picture. But I was a little bit higher on Kevin Steele because for the last few years having Golding, I think Alabama's defense has lacked physicality and lacked. I don't want to say like, especially last year, because Alabama's defensive penalties were Achilles' heel late in the LSU game and the Tennessee game. Both games they lost.
Yeah,
and the Texas game, which they should have lost had Quinn Ewers not got hurt. But like I feel like the and you saw it in the spring game and like you said it's spring ball, but I feel like they're a lot more physical, especially up front and in the linebacking core. But I do expect Bama's defense to be a lot better this year, but and again, that only takes you. I mean, being dominant on one side of the ball only takes you so far. I mean,
yeah, no, I mean, it looks like it. Honestly, I think this year is going to look like a Saban team from like the late 2000s, where you've got a good defense and then just kind of a play action, hit the tight end kind of style of an offense. I don't expect them to light it up on the offensive side of the ball, but the defense did look very good. But I think that had more to do with the offense being terrible. I mean, Ty Simpson, God bless the kid, but I mean, he just did not look ready. He was a 5-star quarterback too. Yeah. I mean, it's just you got to.
And same goes for I think Arch at Texas. I was like, I was very underwhelmed with like how he performed. I thought I mean, maybe it was just the way he was painted on Twitter and stuff like that after his spring game. But I mean, he didn't look that hot either. And I mean, I think most people can agree he was a very overhyped.
Yeah, absolutely. Just because of his last name, he would not be. He would probably be a top 50 player if his last name wasn't Manning. He's not the best quarterback. I can name 5 quarterbacks in this class that are better than him.
Yeah, 100%.
There were some quarterbacks, but there were some quarterbacks. Jackson Arnold was one of them, and then Dante Moore, the kid that went to UCLA.
Yeah.
Malachi Nelson. There was a lot of, and I also liked Holstein, which he looked solid in the spring game for a freshman.
I mean, Nico from Tennessee, he looks like
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, he looks like he'll be good
if he were to beat out Joe Milton. If Joe Milton's not everything, if Joe Milton is not the Messiah that Tennessee fans think he is.
Well, he looked good against Clemson, and he's got a hell of an arm. So, I feel if he flops, I will feel kind of somewhat responsible for hyping him up. But I mean, you go to Twitter, he is literally trending on Twitter right now because Michigan fans hate Joe Milton.
Oh yeah,
and the fact that I had Milton better ranked higher than JJ McCarthy, which I think Joe Milton is more talented than JJ McCarthy. Yeah. And with the style of Michigan's offense, I mean, JJ McCarthy is going to have to throw the ball in one game, and that's against Ohio State. Maybe Penn State on the road, but I don't know. We'll see. I can't wait for the season to get here. Let it play out.
Either. I mean, so I appreciate you coming on with us, Big Game Boomer. It was a pleasure to talk ball with you. Hopefully, we can have you on some during the season as well, especially we talk South Alabama as well, and just ball in general. I mean, I can say I could call you a good friend since we met in person and stuff like that. And
you met me. I'm an actual person.
Huh?
I'm an actual person.
Yeah. I mean, and that's people on Twitter. Yeah, that's what people on Twitter don't understand. So, but I mean, it was a pleasure, and like I said, we hope to have you on more during the season. I know probably a lot of people try to get you on, and again, we just appreciate you.
Yeah, absolutely. Always happy to hop on, help out with any podcast or anything. Love talking football.
Thank you so much. We appreciate all you do too on Twitter too. Like it's honestly a blast for us too. Just like
it's fun. People, and I try to get the group of 5 teams. Try to give you guys some love. I like Kane Womack, so
I think if he has another season like this year, he's gone somewhere else. I mean, they extended his contract, but it's hard. It's hard when a bigger, like say if one of these teams that like maybe like a Cincinnati or UCF or they have a disappointing season and their coach leaves. I mean,
West Virginia, maybe.
West Virginia.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you for coming on, and hope you have a great day. And look forward to what's going to happen up next for Oklahoma's season and all the other craziness heading into this college football season.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks, guys. Y'all take it easy. Have a good evening.
All right. So then again, we thank Big Game Boomer so much for coming on. I know we kept thanking him when he was on, but it was truly
Check out his list. Go cause chaos on Twitter. He would love that.
Yeah, literally, cause some more chaos. Get in the comments and just share your opinion too, because I mean, it's fun as a college football fan to be able to do that. And
again, he's a fan just like us, and that's what's cool about getting him on. The following that he's built up. I mean, and like I said, like he's just a fan, like all of us are. We're all just fans. We're passionate about our teams, and that's why that's why we have, that's like literally what he said. Like that's why we're so passionate about his list, because we're passionate about our schools and about our teams that we root for, and it was just a pleasure to have him on. So what we got next, Josh?
One of the next things that I kind of want to hop into, just as a guy in today's society, and I mean everybody saw it earlier this week in the headlines, that former Bills punter for a couple months, Matt Araiza, was just found not guilty for the rape charges that were held against him, I guess. And it came out that this girl, whoever it was, I guess she was an underage woman, she said that Matt Araiza had raped her. And God forbid, because I don't want to cause any fuss with this, but all I have to say is if a girl is raped, that's awful. I think that's one of the worst things that any man can do. And if a guy does that, like, he deserves to be in jail for life. He deserves death by firing. Like, he deserves to suffer. I 100% agree with that. But the fact that she falsely accused him and that Matt Araiza was not even there when she had consensual sex with multiple other men that night, and the fact that she falsely accused Matt Araiza and ruined his career. I mean, he could still end up getting in the NFL, but personally, I think that she deserves time. I think that she deserves time behind bars. I don't want to get too far into that, but if she's good, like, and there's multiple instances with this where I know a couple, like last year, a thing came out where some girl falsely accused a couple of Ohio State players of raping her. It came out that they were not guilty.
Yeah.
When it comes out that guys did not actually do something like that, and a woman ruins their careers, I think that woman deserves some sort of time.
And it doesn't always ruin. It doesn't also, like, it doesn't ruin just their careers. It can ruin their life too, because, I mean, think about it. I mean, whether a court finds him not guilty, or people are always going to still have their opinion on whether or not he did it, and people can decide for themselves. And you see it everywhere. So I feel like, I definitely feel like, there's got to be some repercussions.
Oh yeah, 100%. Because the thing is, it continues to happen where women are falsely accusing, and I mean, if they're accusing them and then say it comes out not guilty and it actually still did happen, that's horrible. The guy still deserves to be behind bars. But if they're going to falsely accuse a guy, I 100% believe that those women should be punished to the same extent that the guy would have been punished. Because if not, the stuff's going to continue to happen where these women are going to continue to target guys that are higher status, like NFL players or college athletes, and these people that are more susceptible to fall into this trap. And it just ruin the.
And like Josh said, this is not a shot at any woman. Like, if you've actually been a victim of sexual assault or rape, it is definitely horrible.
Speak out. Do not.
We could not imagine what you go through or anything like that. Or and I understand women are targeted more for that kind of stuff, and so that's not a shot at any of this. We're just saying that, especially in like the sports world where the guys make a lot of money, and uh, especially in punters don't make that much money, but still it's more money than
And he was drafted. He was gonna
he was drafted, and he was probably one of the most hyped punters in a while because of his play style and just
how good he was at San Diego State.
how good he really was as a punter. So it's not a knock on anybody. It's not a knock on it's not us not caring about that kind of stuff. It's just us saying
There should be some repercussions
yeah,
for
if it's
false
a false
accusation.
accusation. Now, if it actually happens, either I mean, then yes. If Matt Araiza actually did it, he should be behind bars 100%. I believe that, but the court found him not guilty, and I know. So I mean, that's just the way I take it. But I mean,
And it just sucks because now, I mean, who knows? Maybe a team will pick him up, but I mean, at the same time, they might not. I think he has a chance to still get picked up by a team because of the fact that he was such a phenomenal punter, and it's only been it's been less than a year since this happened.
And the league has been known to give second chances.
Exactly.
So, I mean,
and even in situations where they shouldn't have given second chances, looking at specific cases.
But speaking of the NFL schedule gets released, and I don't know why they make a big deal out of this. It's kind of stupid. It's kind of funny, but it is a cool thing when they release the schedule because they do a 3-hour release show on it. They preview the best matchups of the year. But I mean, it is important for me as a Broncos fan when I see if the Broncos play anywhere close, I got to know what day they're playing them. So that way I can plan. But they don't play anybody closer. They don't play like the Falcons or the Saints or the Jaguars, anything like that. So I don't have to worry about that. But there are a couple of games that I would like to go to. I'd like to see Bryce Young play the Falcons or Saints in Atlanta or New Orleans. But no, when it comes to the NFL schedule, it is a big thing that the NFL does. And some of the matchups they got this year are intriguing. I don't know who's going to be playing Week 1, but I know we're gonna get Eagles Chiefs again in the
Super
regular
Bowl
season.
rematch.
We're gonna get.
You said Bengals Chiefs too, right?
I think we're getting Bengals Chiefs. I'm
Yeah,
sure
we are getting Bengals Chiefs.
The Chiefs probably have the toughest schedule. I mean, I've looked at their schedule or their opponents that they're supposed to play, and it is brutal. But the Chiefs, I mean, they're always gonna be good. I hate the Chiefs personally because I'm a Broncos fan. But no, the matchup I'm most excited to see, and it might not be for anybody else because these two teams are kind of bad. But the Panthers and the Texans play at some point this year. That'll be the first time Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud have faced off. They grew up together. They didn't get to face each other when C.J. was at Ohio State and Bryce was at Bama. Now their first rookie seat, like their first seasons, they get to face off against each other. I think that'll be special to watch. And I think both those quarterbacks will be very special with their new teams, and it'll be exciting to see
both of them play each other. Like, I mean, as a Bama fan and Ohio State fan,
it's like Bama versus Ohio State. Like,
you got to think about it. Like, both of them Heisman finalists against each other.
Yeah.
Like, and then growing up 45 minutes from one another, going to camps against they've always competed against one another, but they've never actually played head to head. And now both of them, number 1 and number 2 pick in this past year's NFL draft, they're going to be able to face off and just go at it. I think for both of them, I think everybody who's watching this definitely saw Bryce Young's reaction to seeing C.J. Stroud drafted by the Texans. And now the fact that they get to play each other, I think that's just going to be a fun
game. In their first year in the NFL.
Exactly.
And then as a Broncos fan, our schedule's always going to be brutal with Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert in the division. Having to play them twice a year is not for the weak. The Raiders, I think, will be better than people expect because they do have Jimmy Garoppolo. I don't know about the Raiders. They're kind of in the same boat that we are because we have a lot of pieces. The Raiders have a lot of pieces, but we don't know about the quarterback position because while Russell Wilson has been Russell Wilson in Seattle, he was not Russell Wilson that we were used to seeing in Denver, last year in Denver, his first year. But I'm excited to see the Broncos schedule. They get to one matchup that I think is intriguing for the Broncos for me is the fact that they play the Jets because for the last few years when the whole Aaron Rodgers drama was going on, it was last year before the Russell Wilson trade. It was the year before. This first came about like the 2021 draft. It was like right before the draft. They were discussing, could the Broncos and Packers make a trade for Aaron Rodgers, and for over a year, the Broncos were Aaron Rodgers was a team that they thought Aaron Rodgers was going to go to. They even hired his former offensive coordinator with the Packers at Green Bay, Nathaniel Hackett, as their head coach to try and say all you want. I think it was Aaron Rodgers' bait. I think that's what it was, and it didn't work out. They got Russell Wilson, but now Nathaniel Hackett goes to the Jets to be their offensive coordinator after we fired him, and now they get Aaron Rodgers, and so I think it'll be pretty cool. I think it'll be pretty cool to see the Broncos and Jets face off, considering they were the two teams in this kind of like quarterback drama between Aaron Rodgers, and the Jets ended up getting Rodgers. And the Broncos do play the Bears, so that'll be something we get to watch, me and you.
That will be something that we can watch together too.
Hopefully, Patrick Surtain will pick off Justin Fields a couple times, but
really interesting game. But also, one thing I just want to kind of throw out there, one team that I was kind of like, I've been really high on the Lions in the NFC. I truly, and I've of a lot of NFL like pages on Twitter and Instagram have been posting how they think the Lions have the potential to come out on top of the NFC. It's very likely, but also very unlikely at the same time. I think one other team that a lot of people are forgetting about in the NFC is the Rams, because I mean, thinking about Matthew Stafford coming back healthy and Cooper Kupp, I mean, yeah, they lost a couple crucial pieces too, but I'm like, I really think that, I mean, if them coming back healthy, I really think that Cooper Kupp and Matthew Stafford are going to want the revenge tour. Who knows? Maybe we'll even see Stetson make some appearances in a couple games too. But I mean, it'll be interesting to see.
And another thing with the schedule release too is all these teams do their own little thing for when they release their schedule. Like I know the Broncos the past 2 years have been doing specials with Peyton Manning, like where he serves as an intern and he's doing things, and then he's in charge of releasing the schedule at the end of the offseason, and then that's how they release the schedule. And they're doing it again. They're calling it the trilogy with Peyton Manning, and it's pretty cool. They all have their unique videos and ways they release their schedule. So the NFL does make a big deal out of this.
Yeah, they do. And I mean, it's something exciting to look for. Like as a Bears fan, I'm like, I would totally hope that the Bears can play like the Packers week 1 on Monday Night Football. Like as much as I don't know that's going to happen, that happened a couple of years ago on the NFL's 100th season, but like, or even just playing a division rival week 1 of the season. That's something I want to see, especially for Justin Fields. And I mean, even for you, I feel like you would want to see it too as a Broncos fan, like just something fun to like spice up the beginning of the season. I mean, you probably don't want to play the Chiefs week 1, maybe the Raiders, maybe something like that. But I mean, like for me, it's fun playing a division rival like that first week of the season and like just getting a taste of that. But
yeah, and it's just always good to look forward to, because when the schedule releases, you're one step closer to football season. The schedule's been released. Then comes camps. You got the rookie camps. You got the OTAs and stuff like that coming up. Then you got preseason. I mean, football is getting closer, and it'll be here before we know it. And like Big A Boomer said, with his list, it's something, especially during the offseason, he does it a lot just to pass by the time, give something to people to talk about. Yeah. And that's what the NFL does with the schedule release, making it like as big of a deal as it is to them. And I mean, they do it to get people talking. They do. I mean,
because the draft gets people talking enough, but then after the draft, like there's not much to look forward to.
It kind of dies down, so they needed something to kind of keep up the suspense and stuff like that. So I mean, I'm looking forward to the schedule release. It'll be Thursday. They do like a 3-hour special on NFL Network. I won't be watching it the whole time, but I will want to see what the Broncos schedule looks like, and I would like to see what some of the matchups look like as well.
Heck yeah. Well, it'll be exciting, and I mean, this episode's been super fun having Big Game Boomer come on and discuss a little bit of our opinions with Matt Araiza, and I mean, talking about Oklahoma football and even diving into just everything with like just what Big Game Boomer does for the college football community, because I think he's definitely, like, as much as people may hate to admit it, like he helps the college football community.
Yes, he does.
And he gets so many interactions from every single kind of fan base, and it's fun.
He helps all these college football fan bases connect, and like sometimes they come together, sometimes they hate each other. Sometimes it's, and like we said at the beginning of the show, he goes to a lot of these places and he likes to go visit campuses and he likes to go watch, view atmospheres and see, what it's like to go to a K-State Kansas basketball game or go to an Alabama spring game or just, I mean, you know, atmospheres that the normal college football fan probably wouldn't go to. One thing I wish we could have asked him is like the college football ticket prices. How
Yeah, how that is for him, how it hurts his wallet. But no,
well, they are expensive, especially like for the games. The big games that everybody wants to go see. Like Bama, Texas is already probably above $200 if you're not a season ticket holder.
yeah.
So, but yeah, this episode has been super fun, especially for our first episode. Not in the studio, I feel like this was,
Oh yeah, 100%. It was a blast. I mean, it's different, but I mean, this is what we're gonna have to deal with for the next couple months, next couple episodes too. So, yeah, 100%. But it's been a blast. We hope y'all enjoyed episode 9.
Hit the notification bell for next time. Every time a new episode comes out, subscribe, give us a rating, give us your feedback, interact with us on social media. The links are in the description. Instagram, Twitter.
Hit us up.
TikTok.
DMs are open.
Yes. I mean, we might start making lists. No, I'm joking. We wouldn't do that. But
yeah, well, thank you guys for tuning in and